For thousands of years, the Galactic Council believed it knew every secret hidden among the stars. They knew which civilizations had risen, which empires had fallen, which species had conquered entire sectors, and which worlds held power beyond imagination. At least, that was what they believed, because buried beneath the oldest archives in the galaxy was a secret so dangerous that entire civilizations had erased themselves trying to hide it. A secret connected to a small blue planet located on the edge of an unimportant spiral arm. A world known by only one modern name, Earth. But Earth was not its true name. And when the Council finally discovered what humanity's homeworld had once been called, the entire galaxy fell silent. The grand archive of Asterion floated above a dying star. It was older than most civilizations, older than the Council itself. Its halls stretched for hundreds of kilometers, containing records from nearly every known species. Ancient data crystals, quantum memory vaults, forgotten star maps, lost histories. The archive existed for one purpose: to preserve knowledge. Inside one of its deepest chambers, Senior Archivist Talon moved carefully through rows of glowing storage pillars. The elderly Varelian had spent over 2 centuries studying ancient records. Most days were uneventful: cataloging, sorting, cross-referencing, nothing exciting. Until today, a faint signal appeared on his scanner. An encrypted file. Extremely old. Far older than anything normally found in this sector. Talon frowned. That's impossible. The timestamp displayed an age of nearly 300,000 years. No digital record should have survived that long. Curiosity overcame caution. He opened the file. First, the screen remained blank. Then strange symbols appeared. Ancient symbols. Symbols that belonged to a civilization believed extinct before the Council had even existed. Talon's heartbeat accelerated. The Precursors, the oldest known race in galactic history. Every surviving artifact from them was considered priceless. And this file appeared authentic. He immediately initiated a full restoration sequence. For several minutes, corrupted data slowly rebuilt itself. Lines of text emerged. Fragments of star charts, navigation records, warnings, thousands of warnings. Talon leaned closer. The translation system struggled with the ancient language, then finally produced readable text. The first sentence made his blood run cold. Do not speak the name of the forbidden world. Talon stared. The warning repeated again and again, dozens of times. Every recovered page contained variations of the same message. Do not search for it. Do not map it. Do not reveal it. Do not remember it. A chill moved through the chamber. What kind of world required warnings like this? He continued reading. The next section contained a star map. Most coordinates had been intentionally destroyed. Entire regions of space had been erased. Only one location remained highlighted. One planet. One world. One system. Talon's eyes widened. Sol. The ancient map pointed directly toward humanity's home system, Earth. Hours later, emergency transmissions reached the Galactic Council. Within a day, the Council's highest-ranking officials assembled inside the Hall of Governance. Massive holographic stars floated above the circular chamber. Representatives from hundreds of species watched in silence. At the center stood Archivist Talon, nervous, sweating, surrounded by military guards. Council High Chancellor Vorex folded his forearms. Present your findings. Talon swallowed. 3 days ago, I discovered a precursor archive file. Murmurs spread throughout the hall. Even mentioning the precursors attracted attention. Talon activated the hologram. Ancient symbols appeared above the chamber. Gasps echoed immediately. The file was genuine. Nobody could fake precursor code. The Chancellor's expression darkened. Continue. Talon displayed the warning message. Silence followed. Then confusion. A council member laughed. A forbidden world? Ancient superstition. Several others nodded. But Talon wasn't finished. He switched to the recovered star map. Earth appeared. The laughter stopped instantly. Humanity's representatives exchanged uneasy glances. The Chancellor leaned forward. Explain. The file identifies Earth as the location being hidden. Now the room exploded with questions. Impossible. Absurd. Ridiculous. Earth was one of the most thoroughly documented planets in known space. Humanity had been part of the galaxy for centuries. Nothing about Earth was mysterious. At least that's what everyone believed. Talon raised another image. A second recovered document. This one was damaged. Only fragments remained. But one section was intact. A single sentence. The translation system finished processing. Words appeared above the chamber, and every voice vanished. The world once known as static interrupted the text. The final name remained corrupted, unreadable, but beneath it appeared another warning, one even older than the first. If the name is remembered, the sleepers will awaken. The entire council chamber became silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the humans looked confused, because none of them had ever heard this story before. Then an alarm suddenly sounded inside the hall. Red lights flashed. A security officer rushed toward the Chancellor. "Sir, what is it?" The officer looked terrified. "We detected unauthorized access." "From where?" The officer hesitated. His voice trembled. "Multiple locations." "How many?" The officer stared at the report, then slowly looked up. "Every classified archive in the galaxy." The room froze. Someone else was searching for Earth's forgotten name. And whoever it was had started searching the exact moment the council found the first clue. The Hall of Governance remained silent long after the security officer delivered his report. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The realization hanging over the chamber was far more terrifying than anyone wanted to admit. Someone else had been looking for Earth's forgotten name, and they had begun searching at the exact same moment the council uncovered the first clue. That was no coincidence. High Chancellor Vorax rose slowly from his throne. His 4 eyes scanned the assembly. "For the first time in 8 centuries, I am declaring a Level 1 archive lockdown." Shock spread through the room. Several representatives immediately protested. A Level 1 lockdown had only been used twice in galactic history. Entire star systems could be isolated. Travel restrictions could be imposed. Military fleets could be mobilized. The Chancellor ignored the objections. "Seal every archive." His voice echoed across the chamber. "Restrict all access to precursor records. No exceptions." The security officers immediately acknowledged the order. Across the galaxy, thousands of archive stations began shutting down. Quantum databases disconnected. Memory vaults sealed. Research networks went dark. Within minutes, the largest information blackout in galactic history had begun. Yet even as the lockdown spread, new alerts continued appearing. Someone was still searching, and somehow, they were bypassing every security system. Far beyond Council territory, hidden inside a region of space marked forbidden on most star maps, a massive structure drifted silently between dead stars. The station possessed no identifying marks, no transponder signal, no visible weapons. Officially, it did not exist. Yet within its walls, thousands of individuals monitored galactic communications every second. Ancient screens illuminated the darkness. Data streams flowed endlessly. At the center of the station stood a woman with silver hair and cold gray eyes. Director Mara Voss, commander of the organization known only as the Custodians, an organization older than the Galactic Council itself. One of her officers approached quickly. "They found the archive." Mara did not appear surprised. It was inevitable. "The Council has already begun translating the records." Mara nodded. "How much did they recover?" "Very little." The officer hesitated, but enough to start asking questions. For the first time, concern appeared on Mara's face. That was dangerous. Questions always led to answers, and answers led to discoveries. For 3,000 years, the Custodians had prevented exactly that. Their mission had remained unchanged since the organization's creation. Protect the secret. Protect the name. Protect Earth. No matter the cost. The officer activated a hologram. Ancient symbols floated above the table. Recovered fragments from the council's archive. Mara studied them carefully, then sighed. They're getting closer. The officer nodded. Should we intervene? Silence filled the room. Every person present already knew what intervention meant. Ships, agents, assassinations if necessary. The custodians had done far worse in the past. Entire civilizations had vanished after getting too close to the truth. Mara finally spoke. Not yet. The room visibly relaxed. Monitor them. She folded her arms. If they discover the first name, we act. The officer swallowed. Even speaking those words made him uncomfortable. The first name. Few within the custodians knew what it actually was. Most were never told. Knowledge itself was dangerous. The fewer who knew, the safer everyone remained. But Mara knew, and every night she wished she didn't. Meanwhile, inside the Sol system, humanity remained completely unaware of the storm gathering around them. On Earth, billions continued their daily lives. Cities glowed beneath the night sky. Ships entered and departed orbital stations. Children attended schools. Workers filled spaceports. Life continued normally, because nobody outside a handful of officials knew what the Council had discovered. Not yet. Inside the United Earth Directorate headquarters, however, the atmosphere was very different. Emergency meetings had been ongoing for nearly 16 hours. Military leaders, scientists, government representatives, all gathered around a massive holographic display. Earth rotated slowly above the table. Director Amelia Hayes stared at the image. The Council believes Earth has a hidden precursor connection. A general shook his head. That's impossible. Is it? The room fell quiet. Nobody had an answer. Humanity's early history remained surprisingly incomplete. Large portions of Earth's ancient records had been lost during multiple global conflicts centuries earlier. Historians knew fragments, myths, legends, religions, stories, but humanity's oldest origins remained uncertain. Director Hayes zoomed the hologram outward. The solar system appeared, then surrounding sectors, then ancient star maps recovered from precursor ruins. Patterns began emerging, uncomfortable patterns. Earth appeared repeatedly, again and again, across different ruins, different worlds, different eras. The same location kept appearing, as if ancient civilizations had been obsessed with humanity's homeworld. One scientist leaned forward. Has anyone else noticed this? He highlighted several symbols. The room examined them. A linguist suddenly froze. Her face went pale. No. What? She pointed toward the symbols. They aren't references. Everyone looked confused. What do you mean? The linguist swallowed hard. Those symbols don't identify Earth. The room grew silent. What do they identify? The woman looked terrified. They identify ownership. Nobody understood. Director Hayes frowned. Explain. The linguist enlarged the translation. Ancient characters filled the display. Then she completed the reconstruction. The translated text appeared, and every person in the room stopped breathing. The symbol wasn't describing Earth. It was labeling it. The translation read, "Property of the first ones. Silence. Absolute silence." The scientist stared at the screen. Who were the first ones? Nobody knew. Not the Council. Not humanity. Not even the oldest historical records mentioned them. Yet somehow an entire planet had been marked as their property. Earth. At that same moment, deep beneath Antarctica's ice sheets, something happened. Something that had not occurred in thousands of years. Far below the surface. Far below known human facilities. Far below any mapped structure. A signal activated. Ancient machinery awakened. Dust that had remained undisturbed for millennia drifted into the air. Massive systems powered on. One by one. Across enormous chambers hidden beneath the planet's crust. Lights appeared in the darkness. Ancient symbols illuminated forgotten walls. Machines older than recorded history began operating once more. Then a voice echoed through the facility. A voice that had been silent for ages. Cold. Mechanical. Ancient. External inquiry detected. Pause. Identity analysis in progress. Seconds passed. Then another message followed. And this one would have terrified every leader in the galaxy. Probability of name recovery, 17%. A brief silence. Then, awakening protocols initiated. Elsewhere in the galaxy, Director Maravas suddenly received an emergency alert. Her screen flashed red. For the first time in decades, genuine fear appeared in her eyes. The alert originated from a location she hoped would never activate again. Earth. Specifically, Antarctica. The message contained only 4 words. 4 words that made her blood run cold. The Guardian is waking. Director Maravas stared at the flashing alert. For several seconds, nobody in the command center dared speak. The message remained projected above the table. The Guardian is waking. The words felt unreal. Impossible. The Guardian was not supposed to wake. Not now. Not for centuries. Perhaps not ever. For 3,000 years, the custodians had protected the secret specifically to prevent this exact scenario. And now it was happening. Mara's voice finally broke the silence. Confirm source. An officer immediately checked the transmission. His face turned pale. It's authentic. Mara closed her eyes. That was the answer she had feared. The signal originated from one of the oldest monitoring stations in existence. A station built long before the Galactic Council. Long before modern humanity reached the stars. Long before most civilizations currently occupying the galaxy had even evolved. The officer looked nervous. What are your orders? Mara opened her eyes. Prepare the fleet. The room froze. Several officers exchanged worried glances. The custodian fleet had not mobilized in over 700 years. Many younger members had never even seen the legendary vessels leave their hidden docks. One officer hesitated. All of it. Mara nodded. All of it. No further questions followed. Everyone understood the severity of the situation. If the Guardian was truly awakening, the galaxy was already in danger. Meanwhile, inside the Galactic Council's Central Intelligence Complex, panic was beginning to spread. Thousands of analysts worked around the clock. Every recovered archive, every ancient artifact, every forgotten ruin, everything connected to Earth was being examined. And the more they discovered, the worse things became. Senior archivist Talon sat surrounded by stacks of reports. His exhaustion was obvious, yet he could not stop reading. Each new document raised even more questions. A young researcher rushed into the room. We found another fragment. Talon immediately stood. Where? Recovered from a destroyed precursor observatory. The researcher activated a hologram. Ancient text appeared. Most of it remained damaged, but several lines were readable. Talon carefully studied the translation. His heart sank. The document wasn't describing Earth. It was describing something beneath Earth. A structure. An installation. Prison. Or perhaps, a vault. The exact meaning remained unclear, but one sentence survived almost perfectly. The words appeared on the screen. The gate remains sealed beneath the cradle world. Talon frowned. The cradle world? The researcher nodded. We believe that's Earth. Another analyst spoke. We found the term in 6 separate locations. Talon's concern deepened. Ancient civilizations often used different names for planets. But this title appeared repeatedly, almost reverently, as if Earth held a unique place in galactic history. The analyst continued. There's more. A second translation appeared. This one was significantly older. Much older. Perhaps the oldest record ever recovered. The room became silent as the text completed itself. When the first ones departed, they entrusted the gate to their children. Talon stared. Children? Nobody answered, because everyone was thinking the same thing. Who were the children? Across the galaxy, strange events began occurring. Small at first, easy to dismiss. Anomalies inside ancient ruins. Unexplained energy surges. Long-dormant machines suddenly activating. sensors detecting impossible signals. Most reports were ignored, until the patterns became impossible to deny. Inside a research station orbiting a dead star, scientists watched in shock as an ancient alien device powered itself on. The machine had remained inactive for nearly 50,000 years. No one understood how it worked. No one knew who built it. Yet suddenly, without warning, it awakened. A holographic symbol appeared. The researchers immediately transmitted the image to the council. Within hours, dozens of similar reports arrived. Different planets, different sectors, different civilizations, but always the same symbol. A circle surrounded by 7 stars. Nobody knew its meaning, except one person, Director Mara Voss. The moment she saw the symbol, her expression darkened. She recognized it instantly. It was the seal of the first ones, and it had not appeared openly in over 100,000 years. On Earth, Director Amelia Hayes sat inside a secure underground facility beneath Geneva. The latest reports covered her desk. None of them made sense. Earth's governments had spent centuries exploring their own planet. Every ocean mapped, every continent surveyed, every major geological formation catalogued. Yet suddenly evidence suggested enormous structures existed beneath the surface. Structures no one had ever discovered. A military officer entered the room. "You need to see this." Hayes followed him quickly. Moments later, she entered a briefing chamber. Scientists crowded around a massive screen. One researcher looked visibly shaken. "We re-examined old seismic data." Hayes folded her arms. "And?" The scientist zoomed in on Antarctica, specifically the eastern ice fields, a region considered geologically stable. Then he activated a deeper scan. The room fell silent. Something enormous appeared beneath the ice. Not natural, artificial, perfectly symmetrical, miles wide, miles deep, impossible to miss. And yet somehow it had remained hidden from humanity for thousands of years. Hayes stared at the image. "How?" The scientist shook his head. "We don't know." Another researcher answered. "It's shielded." Everyone looked at him. The researcher swallowed. "Whatever is down there bends seismic waves." Silence. That should not have been possible. Not with known technology. Not even advanced alien technology. Yet the evidence was undeniable. Something ancient existed beneath Antarctica. Something colossal. And it had been hiding from humanity the entire time. Hours later, a joint expedition was approved. The best scientists, the best engineers, the best military personnel, all heading toward Antarctica. Their objective was simple: find the structure, discover what it was, and determine whether it connected to the mystery surrounding Earth's forgotten name. What nobody realized was that they were already too late, because deep beneath the ice, the awakening had continued. Ancient corridors illuminated one after another. Gigantic chambers came alive. Massive systems activated. And at the center of the facility stood something hidden within a circular vault. Something enormous. Something sleeping. Thousands of mechanical restraints surrounded it. Most remained intact, but not all. One restraint suddenly shattered. Then another. Then another. A low vibration echoed through the underground complex. The sound resembled a heartbeat. Slow, powerful, ancient. For the first time in countless ages, something inside the vault moved. Far away, aboard the flagship of the custodian fleet, alarms screamed across every deck. Mara Voss studied incoming telemetry. Her officers looked terrified. One finally spoke. "Energy levels are increasing." "How much?" The officer checked the readings. His voice trembled. "Faster than predicted." Mara's expression hardened. "Estimated awakening time?" The answer appeared moments later. The entire bridge became silent. Several officers simply stared at the number, unable to believe it. Mara felt a cold knot form in her stomach, because the estimate gave humanity almost no time. The countdown read, "Awakening, 72 hours remaining." And if the Guardian fully awakened before the truth was uncovered, The galaxy might never get a second chance. The number hung above the bridge of the custodian flagship like a death sentence. Awakening. 72 hours remaining. No one spoke. For centuries, the custodians had trained for countless scenarios. Galactic wars, empire collapses, precursor discoveries, even first contact events with unknown species. But there was only one emergency protocol classified above all others. The awakening. And now it was happening. Director Maravas stared at the countdown. Transmit Omega Directive. Several officers looked shocked. One of them hesitated. Director, Omega Directive has never been activated. Mara didn't blink. It has now. The officer immediately obeyed. Across hidden sectors of the galaxy, encrypted signals burst into hyperspace. Ancient listening stations received them. Secret fleets awakened. Forgotten outposts activated. Thousands of custodian agents abandoned their missions and prepared for deployment. The message contained only 6 words. The final protocol is now active. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council was descending into chaos. Emergency meetings followed emergency meetings. New discoveries arrived every hour. And each discovery was more disturbing than the last. Inside the Hall of Governance, High Chancellor Vorex listened as intelligence officers delivered their reports. We've confirmed ancient machine activations in 37 star systems. Another officer stepped forward. Correction, Chancellor. 42 systems. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The number kept increasing. No one understood why. Ancient devices buried beneath worlds were suddenly waking up. Machines that had remained dormant for tens of thousands of years. Machines no known civilization had built. Machines connected by one common factor. Earth. Every activation appeared linked to humanity's homeworld. The Chancellor leaned forward. What exactly are these machines doing? The officer swallowed. We don't know. Then tell me what you do know. The hologram changed. A map of the galaxy appeared. Red lights marked activation sites. The room fell silent. The locations formed a pattern. A gigantic pattern. One so large that nobody had recognized it before. Lines connected system after system. World after world. Ancient station after ancient station. Together they created a massive geometric structure stretching across thousands of light years. A network. A single interconnected network. And at its center was Earth. The Chancellor stared. What am I looking at? No one answered immediately. Finally, a scientist spoke. We believe it's a monitoring system. Monitoring what? The scientist looked uneasy. We don't know. The Chancellor frowned. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council felt blind. On Earth, the Antarctic expedition was underway. Massive transport aircraft crossed frozen skies. Orbital shuttles delivered equipment. Military personnel established temporary bases across the ice fields. The entire operation had been classified at the highest level. Officially, the expedition did not exist. Unofficially, it had become humanity's most important mission. Director Amelia Hayes arrived at the Forward Command Center shortly after sunrise. Scientists immediately surrounded her. One researcher looked both excited and terrified. We found an entrance. Hayes stopped. What? The scientist activated a hologram. Beneath the ice, a perfectly circular opening had appeared. It hadn't been there 24 hours earlier. Now it existed, as if something below had opened it deliberately. The shaft descended several kilometers underground, directly toward the hidden structure. Hayes stared at the image. Any signs of activity? The scientist nodded. Constant energy readings. Artificial. Definitely. Hayes took a deep breath. Prepare the descent team. 3 hours later, the first explorers entered the shaft. Advanced drones led the way. Behind them came scientists, engineers, and military escorts. The deeper they traveled, the stranger things became. The walls weren't made of ice. Not anymore. At nearly 2 kilometers down, natural formations vanished completely. Smooth black metal replaced them, a material unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. No seams, No visible construction marks. No corrosion. As perfect as the day it had been created. The team continued downward. Eventually the shaft opened into a colossal chamber. Everyone stopped, speechless. The cavern stretched beyond the limits of their lights. Towering structures rose from the darkness. Gigantic pillars disappeared into the ceiling far above. Ancient symbols glowed softly across metallic surfaces. The place felt less like a building and more like an entire hidden city. A city buried beneath earth. A city older than recorded history. One soldier whispered the only thing anyone could think. "My God!" Then something happened. The symbols on the walls suddenly brightened. The entire chamber illuminated. Machines awakened. Systems activated. And a voice echoed through the darkness. Not through speakers. Not through radios. Directly through the air itself. The words emerged in a language no one recognized. Yet somehow everyone understood them. Identity confirmation in progress. The team froze. Several soldiers raised their weapons. Scientists stared in disbelief. The voice continued. Genetic verification detected. Hayes looked around. Who's speaking? No answer came. Instead, a massive holographic projection appeared. A figure. Humanoid. Tall. Radiating authority. Its face remained hidden behind shifting light. The ancient being examined the humans silently. Then it spoke again. Descendants confirmed. The entire chamber became silent. One scientist slowly stepped forward. Descendants of who? For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the figure answered. And its response shattered everything humanity believed about itself. Descendants of the first ones. Back aboard the custodian flagship, alarms suddenly intensified. Mara Voss received a direct transmission. Priority level, absolute. The sender identification shocked her. The Antarctic facility. That should have been impossible. The facility had never communicated directly before. Not once in 3,000 years. Yet now a message waited. Mara opened it immediately. Ancient symbols appeared, then translated themselves automatically. The bridge crew watched in silence. Every face grew pale, because the message contained only one sentence. The heirs have returned. Across the galaxy, ancient machines reacted instantly. Dormant stations activated. Forgotten satellites awakened. Massive structures hidden inside dead systems powered on. One after another. Thousands of them. A signal spread outward from Earth at unimaginable speed. Crossing sectors. Crossing empires. Crossing the entire galaxy. And wherever the signal reached, ancient technology responded. As though something had finally happened after waiting for countless ages. As though a command had been issued. As though the galaxy itself had been waiting for humanity to remember who they truly were. Then, deep beneath Antarctica, the ancient holographic figure spoke once more. This time its voice carried something new. Respect. Recognition. Perhaps even relief. It looked directly at the humans. And said, "The time of forgetting is ending. The name must be restored." The enormous underground chamber remained completely silent. No one moved. No one even breathed. The holographic figure stood above the ancient platform, surrounded by glowing symbols older than any language humanity had ever encountered. His final words echoed through the facility. "The time of forgetting is ending. The name must be restored." Director Amelia Hayes stared upward. Thousands of questions raced through her mind. Only one mattered. What name? The hologram became still, as if processing the question. Then, for the first time, a hint of emotion appeared in its voice. Something resembling sorrow. The first name. A scientist stepped forward. "You mean Earth had another name?" The figure turned toward him. "Earth is the newest name." The room fell silent. Before Earth, there was Terra. Images appeared above the chamber. Ancient maps. Forgotten languages. Human civilizations. Historical records. The scientists recognized many of them. Humanity had used numerous names for its world throughout history. Terra, Gaia, the homeworld, the cradle. But the hologram continued. Before Terra, There was another. A new image appeared. This one showed symbols unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The language looked impossibly old, predating every known civilization, predating written history itself. The scientists stared in amazement. Is that the first name? The hologram remained silent. For several seconds it simply watched them. Then it answered. No. Shock spread across the room. That isn't the first name? It is merely the closest translation your species can currently understand. A cold feeling settled over everyone. Whatever the true name was, human languages weren't capable of expressing it. Far away, inside the Hall of Governance, panic was spreading. The Council's intelligence network had detected the activation signal from Earth. Ancient systems across the galaxy were coming online by the minute. Entire sectors reported unusual energy spikes. Lost stations awakened. Forgotten gateways activated. Abandoned structures suddenly powered up. Nobody knew why, but everyone knew where the signal originated. Earth. The Chancellor stood before the massive holographic map. Red markers filled the display. There were now over 12,000 confirmed activations. The number continued climbing. An intelligence officer approached. Chancellor, we've completed pattern analysis. What did you find? The officer enlarged the map. The room immediately fell silent, because the activated locations weren't random. Together they formed a message written across the galaxy itself. Ancient coordinates connected system after system. The resulting symbol covered nearly half the known galaxy. No one recognized it, except Archivist Talon. His face turned pale. The Chancellor noticed immediately. You know what it is? Talon nodded slowly. Yes. The Chancellor's voice hardened. Explain. Talon swallowed. It's an invitation. Silence. What kind of invitation? Talon looked terrified. The kind sent when rulers return. Back beneath Antarctica, the ancient figure continued revealing information. Images appeared around the chamber. Entire star systems, galaxies, civilizations, events beyond comprehension. The humans watched in stunned silence. One thing quickly became obvious. The first ones weren't merely advanced. They had been incomprehensibly powerful. Entire planets moved according to their designs. Stars were reshaped, galaxies mapped, wormholes created, civilizations guided. It was as though reality itself had been a tool in their hands. A scientist stared at one image showing enormous structures larger than solar systems. That's impossible. The hologram answered immediately. It was achieved. The scientist had no response. The scale was beyond imagination. Director Hayes finally asked the question haunting everyone. If the first ones were so powerful, what happened to them? The chamber grew quiet. Even the hologram seemed hesitant. Then ancient stars appeared above them. Thousands of stars. Millions. Billions. The image zoomed outward. Far beyond the Milky Way. Far beyond neighboring galaxies. Into darkness. Then something appeared. Something huge. Something impossible. The scientists stared in horror. The shape resembled a tear in reality itself. A wound in the universe. The hologram spoke. They left. Left where? Beyond. The room remained silent. Nobody understood. The hologram continued. Their departure required sacrifice. Images shifted again. Worlds burned. Fleets vanished. Ancient civilizations disappeared. A terrible war unfolded. A war older than recorded history. A war the galaxy had completely forgotten. To protect this universe, the gate was sealed. Hayes immediately remembered the recovered archive. The gate. The same gate hidden beneath the cradle world. Earth. A terrible realization formed. The gate is here? The hologram looked directly at her. Yes. Every person in the room froze. A scientist stepped forward nervously. What exactly is the gate? The hologram remained silent for several seconds. Then answered. A doorway. Nobody liked the sound of that. A doorway to where? The lights throughout the chamber dimmed. Ancient machinery hummed softly. Then the hologram delivered an answer that chilled everyone. To where the first ones went. Silence. Absolute silence. The implication was horrifying. Something beneath Earth connected to wherever the first ones had disappeared. Something powerful enough that entire civilizations had hidden its existence for hundreds of thousands of years. Something dangerous enough to erase history itself. Meanwhile, aboard the custodian flagship, Director Maravas stood alone inside a secure observation room. The stars drifted silently beyond the glass. Her thoughts remained fixed on a single question. How much had humanity already learned? The answer arrived moments later. An encrypted transmission from Antarctica. She opened it. The report confirmed her fears. The heirs had entered the facility. The Guardian had contacted them. And the truth was beginning to emerge. Mara closed her eyes. The timeline was accelerating. Events were unfolding exactly as ancient predictions described. The prophecy she had spent her entire life trying to prevent. A soft voice interrupted her thoughts. Director. She turned. An elderly custodian officer stood behind her. One of the few people alive who knew the complete truth. The countdown? Mara asked. The officer looked grim. 48 hours. Her stomach tightened. The Guardian was awakening faster than expected. And if the first name was restored before humanity understood its consequences, everything could change. Not just for Earth. For the entire galaxy. For reality itself. Deep beneath Antarctica, the hologram suddenly became unstable. Its image flickered. Warning symbols appeared throughout the chamber. Ancient systems activated. Emergency lights illuminated hidden corridors. The humans exchanged worried glances. Something was wrong. Then the hologram looked upward. As though listening to a distant voice. Its expression changed instantly. For the first time, fear appeared. Real fear. The room grew cold. The hologram spoke only 4 words. 4 words that caused every ancient machine in the facility to react. They know we remember. Then every alarm in the underground city activated at once. And somewhere far below, something answered. The alarms echoed through the underground city like thunder. Red lights flooded the colossal chamber. Ancient symbols flashed across walls that had remained silent for untold ages. Every scientist, every soldier, every member of the expedition froze. The holographic Guardian stood motionless, staring into the darkness below. His expression had changed. For the first time since humanity encountered it, the ancient intelligence looked afraid. Director Amelia Hayes stepped forward. What do you mean they know we remember? The Guardian slowly turned toward her. Its voice emerged softer than before. The Watchers have detected the awakening. A chill swept through the room. The Watchers. The Guardian didn't answer immediately. Instead, the chamber darkened. Stars appeared overhead. A vast simulation unfolded. Humanity watched as the universe itself materialized around them. Galaxies rotated. Nebulas glowed. Ancient civilizations rose and vanished. Then the image shifted. Far beyond the known universe. Far beyond the boundaries of reality itself. Shapes emerged from the darkness. Massive. Impossible. Ancient. The scientists struggled to comprehend what they were seeing. Their minds instinctively rejected the scale. One soldier whispered, "What are those?" The Guardian finally answered, "The reason the gate was sealed." Silence. Nobody spoke. Nobody wanted to, because deep inside, everyone already understood. Those things were not friendly. The simulation continued. The ancient beings moved through the void between universes. Entire galaxies appeared insignificant beside them. They were not machines. They were not biological life. They were something else entirely. Something older than existence itself. The Guardian's voice echoed through the chamber. Before your universe was born, they existed. The room became perfectly still. Before stars. Before time. Before matter. One scientist shook his head. That's impossible. The Guardian looked directly at him. Many truths are impossible until discovered. No one argued. because humanity had already seen enough impossible things for one lifetime. Meanwhile, inside the Galactic Council chamber, another emergency meeting had begun. The atmosphere was worse than ever. The activation network continued expanding. Ancient systems were awakening faster than analysts could track them. Entire sectors reported unusual phenomena. Stars emitted unexplained energy pulses. Dead stations came back online. Navigation beacons older than civilization suddenly began transmitting. Every sign pointed toward a single conclusion. Something enormous was happening, and Earth was at the center of it. High Chancellor Vorex listened as the latest intelligence briefing concluded. Then he asked the question everyone feared. Can we stop it? The room remained silent. Nobody answered. Finally, Archivist Talon spoke. No. The Chancellor slowly looked toward him. No. Talon shook his head. We're no longer observing events. His voice trembled. We're inside them. The room fell silent. Deep down, everyone knew he was right. Whatever had started was bigger than the Council, bigger than empires, bigger than the galaxy itself. Far across the stars, the custodian fleet emerged from hyperspace. Thousands of hidden warships appeared simultaneously. Gigantic vessels, ancient vessels, ships unlike anything the modern galaxy possessed. Observers across multiple sectors stared in disbelief. Some of the warships were larger than moons. Others carried technology so advanced that sensors could barely identify them. For centuries, the galaxy had believed the custodians were merely a myth. Now the myth had arrived, and it was heading directly toward Earth. Inside the flagship, Maravas studied the countdown. 36 hours remaining. The numbers seemed unreal. She had spent her entire life preparing for this moment. Yet now that it had arrived, she felt helpless. A young officer approached. Director, should we inform the Council? Mara considered the question, then slowly shook her head. It won't matter. The officer looked confused. Mara stared at the stars. The Council believes this is about Earth. Her voice grew quiet. It never was. Back beneath Antarctica, the Guardian continued revealing the truth. Ancient images floated through the air. The story of the first ones unfolded piece by piece. Humanity watched in stunned silence. Millions of years ago, the first ones had become the most powerful civilization in existence. They explored realities beyond their own, universes beyond their own, dimensions beyond their own. And eventually, they found something waiting there, something that should never have been discovered. The Watchers, the beings beyond the gate. A scientist stared at the projection. What happened next? The Guardian answered immediately. War. The images changed, and every person in the chamber felt their stomach drop. The scale was unimaginable. Entire galaxies transformed into battlefields. Stars detonated as weapons. Reality itself fractured. The first ones fought desperately to contain the threat. And eventually, they succeeded. Barely. The gate was sealed. The Watchers were trapped. The universe survived. But the victory carried a cost. The first ones disappeared. Their civilization ended. History was erased. And Earth's true name was hidden forever. Director Hayes folded her arms. If the gate was sealed, why does the name matter? The Guardian became silent, longer than before, as though choosing its words carefully. Finally, it answered. Because the name is the key. Every person in the room stared. The Guardian continued. The gate cannot fully open without the name. A scientist frowned. So if nobody remembers it, we're safe? The Guardian looked directly at him. And for the first time, genuine concern appeared in its voice. Someone remembers. The room went cold. What? The Guardian's eyes lifted toward the stars. Someone has always remembered. At that exact moment, somewhere beyond the edge of known space, a transmission reached its destination. The signal crossed distances that should have been impossible, passed through barriers that should have blocked it, traveled into darkness where no civilization had ever ventured. Finally, it arrived, placed beyond the maps, beyond the galaxies, beyond reality itself. And there, something received it. For a long time, nothing happened. Then a pair of enormous eyes opened in the darkness. Ancient, infinite, patient. A voice echoed across the void. A voice older than creation. The heirs awaken. Silence followed. Then countless other eyes began opening. One after another. Thousands. Millions. Watching. Waiting. Remembering. And somewhere deep beneath Antarctica, the Guardian suddenly froze. Its sensors detected the impossible. The signal had been answered. The watchers were listening. The ancient intelligence slowly turned toward the humans. Its expression had become urgent, desperate, terrified. Then it spoke the words humanity was never meant to hear. You must learn the first name before they do. The chamber beneath Antarctica fell into complete silence. Every scientist, every soldier, every member of the expedition stared at the Guardian. Its final words echoed through the ancient city. You must learn the first name before they do. Director Amelia Hayes frowned. The statement made no sense. They already know it, don't they? The Guardian remained motionless, then slowly shook its head. No. The room became still. A scientist stepped forward. You just said they're listening. They are. Then why don't they know the name? For several moments the Guardian said nothing. Ancient lights flickered across the chamber. Millions of years of forgotten history seemed to weigh behind its eyes. Finally it answered. Because the name was not hidden from the galaxy. A pause. It was hidden from reality itself. The words hit the room like a shockwave. Nobody understood. Not completely. Yet everyone sensed the importance. The Guardian continued. The first ones erased the name from existence. Every archive, every machine, every memory, every timeline. The scientists exchanged stunned looks. One researcher laughed nervously. That isn't possible. The Guardian immediately replied. For them it was. Above the underground city, the Antarctic skies had become strangely active. Satellites reported unusual gravitational distortions. Auroras spread across the horizon. Energy storms appeared where none should exist. The phenomena grew stronger every hour. Governments around Earth struggled to explain what citizens were witnessing. Social networks exploded with speculation. News channels broadcast theories. Scientists argued. Religious leaders debated. Nobody knew the truth, because the truth was buried kilometers below the ice. And it was far stranger than anyone imagined. Inside the Galactic Council, emergency alerts continued arriving. Entire sectors reported sightings of the Custodian fleet. Gigantic warships crossing space. Ancient vessels emerging from hidden regions. The reports spread panic throughout the galaxy. The Chancellor stared at the incoming data. Why are they mobilizing? Nobody answered. Because nobody knew. The Custodians had remained neutral for centuries. They never interfered. They never chose sides. Yet now their entire military force was moving toward Earth. That fact alone terrified the Council. Archivist Talon sat quietly reviewing recovered precursor records. Something had been bothering him for hours. A detail everyone else had overlooked. He activated several ancient documents. One by one they appeared above his workstation. Most were damaged, incomplete, fragmented. Yet they all contained the same symbol, the same phrase, the same warning. Talon's eyes widened. No! He quickly compared the translations. The meaning became clear, and it horrified him. The warnings had never said the name would awaken the Watchers. They said something very different, something much worse. Talon immediately requested an audience with the Chancellor. Meanwhile, deep beneath Antarctica, the Guardian guided humanity into the oldest section of the facility. Massive doors opened. Ancient corridors illuminated. The expedition followed cautiously. What they discovered beyond those doors left them speechless. The chamber ahead was enormous, larger than entire cities. At its center stood a structure unlike anything they had seen before. A sphere, perfectly black, perfectly smooth, miles in diameter, floating above the floor without support. The object seemed to absorb light itself. Looking directly at it felt wrong somehow, as if reality struggled to process its existence. Director Hayes stared in disbelief. "What is that?" The Guardian answered quietly. "The memory vault." The scientists immediately began scanning it. The results made no sense. No material composition. No energy signature. No measurable age. It was as if the object existed outside normal physics. One researcher slowly approached. "What's inside?" The Guardian looked toward the sphere. His voice lowered. "The name." The room froze. After all this time, after countless discoveries, after centuries of mystery, they had finally found it. Or at least where it was stored. Far away, aboard the custodian flagship, Mara Voss received a transmission from Earth. The contents immediately drained the color from her face. The memory vault had been found. For several seconds, she simply stared at the report. Then she whispered, "They found it." An officer nearby looked alarmed. "The vault?" Mara nodded. The officer swallowed hard. "That wasn't supposed to happen." "No," Mara replied. "It wasn't." The countdown above the bridge continued ticking downward. 24 hours remaining. Time was running out. Back inside the underground city, the Guardian approached the floating sphere. Ancient symbols appeared across its surface. The entire structure began humming softly. Millions of hidden systems activated. The sphere responded to the Guardian's presence. Then a beam of light emerged from its center. Images filled the air. Human history, Earth's history, the rise of civilization, the birth of language, the first cities, the first kingdoms, the first empires, everything humanity remembered. Then the images continued backward, further, past recorded history, past prehistoric humanity, past the Ice Age, past the earliest humans, past everything. The room watched in stunned silence. The projection finally stopped. A new world appeared. Earth, but not the Earth anyone recognized. The continents were different, the oceans different, the atmosphere brighter, and scattered across the planet stood immense shining cities. Impossible cities. Cities that reached into orbit. Cities larger than nations. The scientists stared. One whispered, "This is Earth." The Guardian nodded. Before the forgetting. Then they saw them. The builders of those cities. The first ones. At first glance they appeared human. But only at first glance. They were taller, stronger, radiating an almost unnatural presence. Their technology seemed woven into reality itself. The expedition watched as the ancient civilization flourished. For thousands of years. Then everything changed. The sky darkened. The stars disappeared. And the war began. The same war humanity had seen before. Only this time they witnessed its beginning. The arrival of the Watchers. The collapse of worlds. The destruction of civilizations. The final sacrifice. The sealing of the gate. And finally, the creation of the memory vault. The last act of the first ones. A desperate attempt to protect the universe. The projection ended. Silence followed. One scientist spoke, the question haunting everyone. If the first ones looked human, he couldn't finish. He didn't need to. The Guardian answered anyway. Because they were. The room froze. Every heartbeat seemed to stop. Every thought vanished. Humanity stared at the ancient intelligence, unable to process what it had just said. The Guardian's gaze swept across them. And then it revealed the truth hidden for millennia. The first ones were not humanity's creators. Pause. Humanity is what remains of the first ones. At that exact moment, all across the galaxy, ancient systems reacted. The activation network surged. Dormant stations powered fully online. Lost gateways awakened. And for the first time in hundreds of thousands of years, a signal was broadcast from Earth. Not to the galaxy. Not to the Council. Not to the custodians, but to something far beyond. A message from the memory vault itself. The transmission contained only one sentence. A sentence that caused every custodian monitoring station to enter emergency status. The heirs have remembered their origin. And somewhere beyond reality, something smiled. The message spread across the galaxy in seconds. The heirs have remembered their origin. Every custodian station received it. Every ancient monitoring array detected it. Every dormant First One system responded. For the first time in hundreds of thousands of years, the galaxy was witnessing events that had only existed in prophecy. Inside the flagship of the custodian fleet, silence filled the bridge. Director Mara Voss stared at the transmission. She had spent her entire life preventing this moment. Now it had happened. An officer finally broke the silence. "What do we do?" Mara looked at the countdown. 18 hours remaining. Then she answered, "The same thing we've always done." The officer nodded. "Protect the heirs?" Mara slowly shook her head. "No." Everyone looked confused. Mara's eyes remained fixed on Earth. "This time, we protect the galaxy." Deep beneath Antarctica, humanity struggled to process the revelation. The first ones were human. Or rather, humanity was what remained of them. Entire scientific fields collapsed in an instant. History itself had just been rewritten. One of the researchers sat down heavily. "This changes everything." The Guardian looked toward him. "No." The scientist blinked. "What?" "It changes nothing." The room became quiet. The Guardian continued. "You were the heirs yesterday. You remain the heirs today. Truth does not change what you are." Director Hayes folded her arms. "Then why hide it?" For the first time, the Guardian looked genuinely sad. "Because memory is dangerous." His gaze shifted toward the black sphere. The memory vault. The first name could not be forgotten. So it was imprisoned. The scientists exchanged nervous looks. A name imprisoned. The concept sounded absurd. Yet nothing about the situation felt absurd anymore. Not after everything they had learned. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the facility. The Guardian turned sharply. Ancient warning symbols illuminated every wall. The underground city trembled. Something enormous moved far below. The vibration rolled through the structure like distant thunder. A military officer gripped his weapon. "What was that?" The Guardian didn't answer immediately. Its sensors focused on something deep beneath the facility. Then it spoke, and everyone wished it hadn't. "The gate is responding." The room went cold. Far away, inside the Galactic Council chamber, Archivist Talon finally presented his findings. The Chancellor listened carefully. "So you're saying we've misunderstood the warnings?" Talon nodded. "Completely." The ancient documents floated above the chamber. Thousands of years of recovered translations. Thousands of warnings. The Chancellor pointed toward one. "It says the name must never be remembered." "Yes." "And another says the sleepers will awaken." "Correct." The Chancellor frowned. "Then what's the problem?" Talon swallowed. Because what he was about to say terrified him. "The warnings aren't protecting us from the name." The room became silent. "They're protecting the name from us." Several council members stared. "What does that mean?" Talon activated the final translation. One recovered only minutes earlier. Ancient words appeared. The chamber fell completely silent. "The name must remain hidden until the heirs are ready to be found." Nobody spoke. The implication was horrifying. The name wasn't a key. It wasn't a password. It wasn't merely information. It was a beacon. Something capable of attracting attention. The Chancellor felt a chill run down his spine. Attention from what? Deep down, he already knew the answer. Back beneath Antarctica, the memory vault had begun changing. The black sphere slowly rotated. Ancient symbols emerged across its surface. Thousands of them. Millions. Languages older than civilization itself. The Guardian watched carefully. This has never happened before. Director Hayes immediately noticed the concern in its voice. "You don't know what's happening?" The Guardian turned toward her. And for the first time since awakening, it answered honestly. "No." That frightened everyone more than any previous revelation. If the Guardian was uncertain, then events had already moved beyond the ancient plan. The sphere continued rotating. Then suddenly, a crack appeared. A single line of brilliant white light split the darkness. The room froze. Scientists stared. Soldiers raised weapons. The crack widened. More light emerged. The intensity became overwhelming. One researcher whispered, "It's opening." The Guardian nodded slowly. "Yes. Is that bad?" The ancient intelligence remained silent, which was answer enough. A beam of light erupted from the sphere. The entire chamber disappeared beneath its glow. Images flooded the air. Not memories this time. Not history. Messages. Countless messages. Recorded by the first ones before their disappearance. The first message appeared. A man stood before the projection. Tall. Human. Ancient. Yet somehow familiar. His eyes seemed to carry the weight of entire galaxies. The room watched in stunned silence. The recording began. "If you are seeing this." The man smiled sadly. "Then we failed." Nobody moved. Nobody even breathed. The ancient figure continued. "We hoped the forgetting would last forever." His expression darkened. But deep down, we knew it wouldn't. Another image appeared behind him. The gate, far larger than anyone imagined, stretching across dimensions. A wound in reality itself. The ancient man pointed toward it. "We sealed the Watchers." A pause. "We did not destroy them." The room remained silent. The figure looked directly at the viewers, as though speaking across hundreds of thousands of years. "They are patient. They are eternal. And eventually," his voice lowered, "they always find a way back." Across the galaxy, the activation network surged again. This time, something different happened. Ancient First One systems stopped merely awakening. They began moving. Gigantic stations altered course. Forgotten fleets emerged from hiding. Lost gateways activated. The entire network was reorganizing itself. Preparing. For what nobody knew. Except perhaps Mara Voss. And what she suspected terrified her. The ancient recording continued. The First One leader looked directly into the camera. "If the name is ever restored." He hesitated. For the first time, fear appeared in his eyes. Real fear. The kind felt only by beings who understood exactly what was coming. Then he delivered the warning that would shake humanity to its core. The name was never hidden to keep the gate closed. The room froze. Director Hayes slowly stepped forward. The ancient figure continued. "The gate can open without the name." Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The leader's final words echoed through the chamber. "We hid the name because it tells them where we are." Silence. Absolute silence. Then every alarm in the underground city activated simultaneously. The Guardian spun toward the ceiling. Its sensors detected something impossible. Something approaching. Something enormous. Something that should not have been able to find Earth. And somewhere far beyond reality, a vast ancient voice echoed through the darkness. "We remember the name." The moment the voice echoed across the darkness beyond reality, every system in the underground city reacted. Warning lights flashed. Ancient machinery roared to life. The floor beneath Antarctica trembled. Not from an earthquake. Not from any natural force. Something was touching the boundary of the universe. And Earth could feel it. The Guardian stood motionless. Its sensors flooded with impossible readings. For the first time since its awakening, the ancient intelligence appeared overwhelmed. Director Amelia Hayes stared at the projections. "What was that?" The Guardian answered immediately. Its voice had become grim. "A watcher." The room fell silent. One scientist shook his head. "One." The Guardian looked toward him. Yes. Nobody liked the emphasis. Because if one watcher could produce effects on a galactic scale, nobody wanted to imagine what many of them could do. Far beyond known space, reality itself rippled. The distortion spread silently. Stars flickered. Gravity fluctuated. Hyperspace routes became unstable. Across thousands of systems, sensors detected the same anomaly. At first, scientists believed their equipment was malfunctioning. Then every observatory in the galaxy reported identical readings. The impossible was happening. Something outside the universe was interacting with it. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, panic erupted. Military leaders demanded emergency action. Scientists argued. Representatives shouted over one another. The Chancellor finally slammed his staff against the floor. Silence returned. What exactly are we facing? Nobody answered, because nobody knew, except Archivist Talon. And even he only understood a fraction of the truth. Meanwhile, aboard the Custodian flagship, Director Mara Voss received a priority alert. The message originated from the oldest monitoring station in existence. A station hidden beyond the edge of known space. One that had remained silent for over 100,000 years. Until now. Mara opened the report. Her face went pale. The bridge crew immediately noticed. One officer swallowed nervously. What is it? Mara stared at the data. The answer felt unreal. The outer barrier. Silence. Another officer looked confused. What about it? Mara slowly lifted her eyes. It's breaking. The bridge became deathly quiet, because every senior custodian understood what that meant. The barrier wasn't merely a defensive structure. It was the final seal left behind by the first ones. The last thing standing between the universe and whatever existed beyond the gate. And it was failing. Back beneath Antarctica, the memory vault continued opening. The crack of brilliant light expanded wider and wider. Ancient symbols floated through the air. Entire histories unfolded before humanity's eyes. Yet none of it mattered now, because everyone could feel something changing, something approaching. The atmosphere itself seemed heavier. Reality felt strained, as though the universe were under pressure. A young scientist looked toward the Guardian. What happens if they arrive? The Guardian remained silent for several seconds, then answered, No surviving record exists. The room became still. Director Hayes frowned. What does that mean? The Guardian turned toward her. It means no civilization has ever survived long enough to tell us. Nobody spoke after that. Suddenly, the memory vault projected another message. The ancient First One leader reappeared. His image flickered violently, as though the recording itself struggled to remain stable. Yet his voice remained clear. If you are seeing this, his eyes looked directly into the camera. Then they are already searching. The room listened carefully. The ancient man pointed toward the stars. When the Watchers hunt, new images appeared. Galaxies, thousands of them, each glowing brightly. Then one by one they vanished. Not destroyed, not conquered, erased. The scientists stared in horror. The first one continued. They do not invade. They do not negotiate. They do not rule. A pause. They observe. The room became silent. The statement sounded harmless, until he continued. And when observation ends, his expression darkened. Existence becomes unnecessary. A chill swept through everyone present. At that exact moment, a new signal erupted from the depths beneath the facility. The source wasn't the memory vault. It wasn't the Guardian. It wasn't even the gate. It came from something far deeper. Something that had remained hidden beneath Antarctica longer than the underground city itself. The entire complex shook. Massive structures activated. Ancient power flooded through forgotten systems. The Guardian immediately recognized the signature. His eyes widened. Something humanity had never seen before appeared on its displays. The designation read, Primary Defender System Online. The Guardian whispered words no one expected. The Sentinel. Director Hayes looked confused. The Sentinel? The Guardian slowly nodded. And for the first time, relief appeared in its voice. They left one. Deep below the facility, enormous doors began opening. Doors the size of mountain ranges. Mechanical systems older than recorded time awakened. Ancient reactors ignited. The vibrations spread across the entire planet. Satellites detected unusual energy signatures. Governments around Earth received emergency alerts. Nobody understood what they were seeing, because the readings suggested something impossible, something gigantic, something hidden beneath Earth itself. The energy output continued rising. Higher, higher. higher, until it exceeded the combined power production of every civilization in the galaxy. Far beyond reality, countless watchers observed. Ancient eyes focused on a single location: Earth, the heirs, the gate, the name. For the first time in ages they sensed resistance. And they did not like it. The enormous voice returned. This time, many voices answered alongside it. Chorus older than time. The heirs remember. The seal weakens. The path returns. Then a final voice emerged. One so vast that even the others became silent. The voice of something greater. Something ancient even among the watchers. Its words crossed dimensions, crossed universes, crossed reality itself, and reached Earth. Find the name. Inside the underground city, the memory vault suddenly reacted. Symbols exploded across its surface. The chamber filled with blinding light. Ancient security systems activated. The Guardian turned toward the sphere. It finally understood. The vault wasn't opening by accident. It was responding to the Watchers. The name was preparing to reveal itself. After hundreds of thousands of years, the first name was about to return. The Guardian looked toward humanity. Its voice carried urgency, desperation, hope, all at once. There is no more time. The sphere began splitting apart. The light intensified. Reality itself trembled. Then the Guardian spoke the words humanity had waited an entire story to hear. The name is awakening. And somewhere beneath Antarctica, something opened its eyes. The memory vault split apart. Blinding white light flooded the ancient chamber beneath Antarctica. Scientists shielded their eyes. Soldiers staggered backward. The Guardian stood motionless. For hundreds of thousands of years, this moment had remained hidden behind layers of forgotten history. Now it had finally arrived. The name was awakening. The light continued growing brighter. Yet strangely, it did not hurt. Instead, everyone present felt something impossible. Memories. Not their own memories. Older memories. Ancient memories. Fragments of lives lived before recorded history. Vast cities shining beneath unfamiliar skies. Gigantic starships crossing galaxies. Civilizations linked together across the universe. The legacy of the first ones. Humanity watched those memories unfold as if they had personally experienced them. And deep inside, something dormant began stirring. Something hidden within every human being. Something that had slept since the age of forgetting. Director Amelia Hayes fell to one knee. Images flooded her mind. She saw Earth as it once was. Not Earth. Not Terra. Something older. Something greater. A world that served as the heart of an empire spanning countless galaxies. The capital of the first ones. The place from which they explored reality itself. The place where they built the gate. The place where they made their final stand. Then she heard a voice. Ancient. Gentle. Familiar. Spoke only one word. A word she had never learned. Yet somehow always known. The first name. At that exact moment, every human on Earth froze. Millions. Billions. Across cities. Across oceans. Across orbital stations. Across colonies. The same memory awakened. The same word emerged. Not spoken aloud. Remembered. As if humanity's entire species shared a single forgotten memory. And for the first time in hundreds of thousands of years, the heirs remembered their home. Across the galaxy, ancient systems erupted with activity. The activation network reached completion. Every first one station, every hidden fleet, every forgotten gateway, every ancient machine, all recognized the same signal. The name had returned. Massive structures powered to maximum output. Lost defense grids awakened. Dormant guardians activated. The galaxy itself seemed to come alive. Not in fear. In recognition. The rulers had returned. Far beyond reality, the watchers reacted instantly. Ancient eyes opened. Countless voices echoed through the void. They had found the signal. Found the location. Found the heirs. The universe trembled. The barrier surrounding reality began breaking apart. Cracks spread across dimensions. The gate beneath Earth roared with unimaginable power. The final confrontation was beginning. Inside the underground city, the Guardian looked toward the opening memory vault. At its center stood a figure. Human, ancient, radiating impossible power. Not flesh, not machine, something in between. A preserved consciousness. The final keeper of the first ones. The last survivor. The chamber fell silent. The figure opened its eyes. Golden light filled the room. Then it smiled. Not with fear. Not with concern. With relief. The keeper looked at humanity. You remembered. Nobody spoke. The keeper turned toward the stars. Toward the approaching watchers. Then back toward the heirs. The time has come. Director Hayes stepped forward. What happens now? The keeper's answer was simple. What should have happened long ago? Deep beneath the facility, the Sentinel fully awakened. The enormous defender system hidden beneath Earth finally revealed itself. The planet shook. Continents trembled. Oceans surged. Then, from beneath Antarctica, a colossal structure emerged. Not a ship. Not a machine. A fortress. A fortress the size of a moon. Hidden inside Earth since before human history began. Across the galaxy, sensors detected its activation. Civilizations stared in disbelief. The Sentinel had awakened, and it belonged to humanity. The Watchers arrived moments later. Reality tore open above the solar system. Massive fractures spread across space. Darkness poured through. Ancient entities emerged. Larger than planets. Older than stars. The beings responsible for the destruction of countless civilizations. The enemies of the first ones. For the first time in ages, they entered the universe openly. And they expected no resistance. They were wrong. Every first one defense system activated simultaneously. Ancient fleets emerged from hidden dimensions. Gigantic stations unfolded across space. Lost weapons awakened. The Sentinel moved into position. And humanity stood at the center of it all. Not as victims. Not as spectators. As heirs. As guardians. As the last descendants of the civilization that had once protected existence itself. The largest Watcher moved toward Earth. His presence distorted reality. Stars dimmed around it. Space bent beneath its gaze. Then it spoke. Its voice echoed across the solar system. The name has been found. The Keeper stepped forward. Yes. The path is open. The Keeper smiled. No. The Watcher hesitated. For the first time, the Keeper raised one hand. The restored name resonated throughout the galaxy. Ancient systems responded instantly. The Sentinel fired. A beam of light crossed space. Not a weapon. Command. A command embedded into reality itself by the first ones long ago. The universe answered. The gate obeyed. And the impossible happened. The fractures began closing. The path vanished. The Watchers recoiled. For the first time since the dawn of existence, they were being pushed back. The Keeper turned toward humanity. The name was never a key. Director Hayes stared. What was it? The Keeper's smile widened. It was authority. Silence filled the chamber. The first ones did not hide the name because it opened the gate. The Keeper looked toward the retreating Watchers. They hid it because whoever remembered it would inherit the right to command the gate. The realization struck everyone at once. Humanity had never been protecting a secret. Humanity had been protecting ownership. Across reality, the ancient seals reformed. The gate closed. The Watchers vanished beyond it. The fractures healed. The universe stabilized. The threat ended. At least for now. Hours later, the stars shone peacefully once more. The Galactic Council. The custodians. The civilizations of the galaxy, all watched as humanity emerged from the crisis transformed. Not rulers, not conquerors, something far greater. The recognized heirs of the first ones, the guardians of the gate, the protectors of reality itself. As celebrations spread across the galaxy, Director Maravas stood quietly aboard her flagship. For the first time in her life, her mission was complete. The secret no longer needed protecting. The heirs had remembered. The burden had passed to them. She looked toward Earth and smiled. Welcome back. And deep beneath Antarctica, inside the now open memory vault, the final message of the first ones remained engraved forever. We were never gone. We became you. And when the stars needed guardians once more, you remembered who you were. The end.